So when you render out of Maya, you get a bunch of scenes in the Maya folder. And in this case, I got a bunch of card images here. Can't remember. I think it's this one. Okay. So there's a bunch of these, nice purple color, and I can view it as an animation if I like. It's called this one. Okay, so it looks like this. But if I like to make this into a movie running, in here I can press the S key and then it'll run back and forth. So, for instance, I'd like to have this in the video file. Okay. So for creating a video, there's a couple of different options. I'll use After Effects, but I'll also just show you another option.
I know After Effects.
There's a freeware program called DJV. So if I open DJV,
what?
Yes, I told you I'd show you a different way of doing it. DJV is a small freeware program you can download. It looks like this.
Or we need to download it?
I have it downloaded. I can show you later. And in here I can open something. For instance, I want to find my files, and they are usually in up here. So documents, documents. Oh, Maya. Projects, default, images, and then it'll show it as sequences here, which is kind of nice. So just grab one of these. There you go. Okay. So it shows the film in here, and the DJV will actually export this as a film if I want to. So I go save, and I'll just put this on my desktop. Yes. This is desktop, and I can go options, so it should be fine. I think as far as I remember this is good. cc.mov, for instance. Go OK, and it exports this as a video file. There we go. And there should be a video file on my desktop somewhere.
Yeah, find it.
Shh. It's easy. It's called CC.
Why don't you just order them like
There it is.
date?
Never mind. Okay, so it creates a video file, quite easy, and it's a freeware tool, so if you need it, it works. Okay, but probably we'll use After Effects. So it's of course in the Adobe package, Adobe Master Collection CS6, Adobe After Effects. We can also use Toxic, but I'll show you that later. So we get.
You can also use Photoshop.
Yes, but I will not do that.
No.
Okay. So this is After Effects. You'll get a whole separate course on this, because this is the main tool for motion graphics. It's separated into a couple of areas. This is our preview area. This is our timeline area, and this is our project and effects area. And this over here is the different tools that we need. I'll go over here in project section, and I'll right click and go import file. I can also go to the file menu, of course. I just go file, not multiple file, because multiple file would be separate files or separate sequences, but I just want to import one sequence. So I go to my folder, which is here, projects, default, images, and then it's the one called OK card there, and I go OK. You can see it says IFF sequence down here on the left, and I go open, and it asks me how to handle the transparency or alpha channels in the image. For this, I'll just go with the default value. We'll get back to how this is important. So this imports the file. If I just double click here, the sequence. So it has the sequence in here. To make this into a movie, I need to create a composition. So I click this button here to create a new composition, or I can drag what I imported onto this one and it'll inherit the settings of it.
You want to just drag it down to the time?
Yes, but there's some pitfalls to that, so I'd rather have you use the other version because that's easier. One thing though, before I do this, up here I can see the settings. It's set to 1280 by 720, so that's the HD format called 720p for progressive. It's 1 second and 20 frames when running at 30 FPS. 30 FPS is an American standard, so I want it to be the European one, 25 FPS. So to change that, I'll right click my sequence here and go interpret footage, main. And then in here I can tell it what frame rate it should run at. So I want this at 25, so I go 25 and OK. And you can see that changes the duration of it to 2 seconds because I have 50 frames and at 25 frames per second that would be 2 seconds, right? So when that is set up, I'll just drag that on top of that little film strip here. That will create a new composition with that file in it. Okay, and that's what we are seeing here. So I have a 2 second clip here of it running like that. And the nice thing about After Effects is that it has a ton of effects. So I can, for instance, add glow. So that would be stylize glow and then drag it on top. So you can see now I have a glow effect on top. I can change the threshold so that it's only the very bright parts that gets glow, like so. And just press the space bar to run it. Something like that. And then to create a video from this, what I do is I go to my composition window and I go either add to render queue or make movie. But it's the same thing. Add to render queue. That opens up our render queue at the bottom. One thing you don't want is to have this set at lossless. That means use all the space on your hard drive in no time and will not be able to play back at all.
Make 10-minute video into 74 gigabytes.
Yes.
You can play it.
So lossless should be clicked to change this. So the first thing is the format. And I will, most of the time these days, I'll use just H.264. That is the method most HD films are compressed, and also QuickTime has this. This is simply a compression file. So this will create an MP4 file. There is some settings here. Most importantly, the format options. So if I select that one, you can set the settings, and if you're doing something like HD, I'd say target bitrate of around 6 to 10 and the maximum bitrate of somewhere between 20 and 30, I think. That will give you really good quality. Okay, if there's audio, you have to turn it on to make it export audio as well. We don't have any audio, so it doesn't matter. You can also resize and crop and all kinds of things. So okay. So you can see now it says it's a custom setting of H.264 because it was something I set up, and it will output to OKCard PSD.mp4. I'll just click this to make sure I know where it's going. It's going to the desktop. It's fine. It doesn't have it can be named PSD. So I go save, and then to get this out as a video file, I click render, and it runs through it, calculates the glow and everything, and then it says and it's done. I turned off the audio. Okay, so but it's out here somewhere. It's here. So that's the video,
With the glow and everything.
With the glow and everything. One thing I can just add to this is that it's easy in here to add layers. It works just like Photoshop, except that it's animated. So I go to layer and go new solid. That will create a solid layer of in this case gray color. I could also make this some weird green color. Okay, go OK. So that will go on top, and then just like Photoshop, I can just rearrange the layers. Now, one thing I'd want to show you here is you can see that it has like a funny edge down here. That is related to the way it was imported. So if I click my sequence here and right click and go interpret footage, main, it has this thing it asked about when I imported it. So if I set this to ignore, it'll just be the colors, so no transparency will be there. Straight is what I had, or pre-multiplied. If I turn that on, it should just reduce the edge slightly. It should reduce the edge slightly. There you go. It should be just a little bit less visible. Maybe I didn't antylize it enough, but that's the reason is this is a bit technical, but when the program does anti-aliasing, there's two different ways of doing this. It either leaves the color information intact and doesn't touch it, or it takes the color information and uses the transparency to darken it towards a color, for instance black or whatever. That's what's called pre-multiplication. And when you layer things, you want to get rid of that pre-multiplication for it to blend nicely. But you'll see more of that when we get to compositing. And we can of course also generate a ramp for the background. So I'll just grab the background, go generate, select ramp. It's just the same thing as a gradient. Just drag it on the layer down here, and we have a nice ramp there. Can change the colors to something like so. There we go. Very good. Nice. And then again, go to my render queue. I can reuse this, so I just right click and go duplicate with file name, then it's ready, and I can render it out. You heard it say "Dum," and it's done. And it updated this file, so now there's a background on it.
Sweetness.
That's it. That's all there is to creating a video from your single frames.
Flares.
And